The roundtable returns. There we are. All right, everybody. Welcome to LOS Roundtables, episode 2. We did this last month. It was the day before Halloween, and it was our first ever roundtable panel event from LeagueOS. I'm Marty Weatherall, co-founder, CEO of LeagueOS. The last one was hosted by my partner, co-founder and CTO of LeagueOS, Joel Stewart. That one was all about game design and game development, and we had a panel full of working professionals in that world talking about how do you get into game design, game development? What are the pathways? How did they do it? It was really interesting. You can go to the LeagueOS YouTube channel and watch that one if you missed it. This time around, our second ever roundtable, episode 2, is about esports in college. We have done a lot of talking with people in the high school esports space, in the collegiate esports space. We've learned that there's a lot of mystery. It is not very clear to the high school space what's going on in the collegiate space. And so we thought we would gather people that are involved directly in collegiate esports in a variety of ways and find out their story. How did they get into that space? What did it take to get into that space? And then we can ask them a bunch of questions. This is an AMA style format. So once we get through their introductions and their stories, we can dive in with some questions. There's a form that we have been using to request questions in advance. Everybody that uses that form will get the special badge for participating in this roundtable. We have LOS Roundtables badges that can go on your LeagueOS profiles. And that's very exciting because that's going to get more exciting real soon. So the link to the form, if you didn't find it yet or didn't see it yet, there's still time to submit through the form and get your badge. And we can field questions as we go as well. But let's get started. We're going to be here for probably about 90 minutes. That's the idea. I'm told we have some talkers on the panel. That's a good thing, I think. We can learn a lot as we go. I see the gifts are flying in the chat. That's always fun. And we got a lively group. So here to talk esports in college, LOS Roundtables, episode 2. I'm Marty. Now let's meet our panelists. Now the way that I see the group here, it looks like I'm front, top, center. I'm going to start over on the left, and we have a current active player in the esports collegiate space. His name is Spencer August Royale. Am I pronouncing that right, Spencer?
Just Royal. It just has an extra L on the end, yeah.
The 2 L's made me want to emphasize it a little bit. Spencer August, he plays at Missouri State University West Plains, which is about 20 minutes from Arkansas in the bottom middle of the state. We're going to let him jump in and explain who he is, how he got into doing this, what else he does besides playing, and then we'll go on through the group. But you're kicking us off, Spencer, by surprise. Say hello to everybody.
Why'd you do this to me, man? Well, I'm Spencer. I go by Royal, as Marty said. I go to Missouri State University West Plains, and I'm a collegiate esports player. I play Warzone for MSU, and I also create content. I create TikToks, YouTube videos, etc., for MSU West Plains, and I also create TikToks for the NJCAAE. And I've also just been picked up onto a content team for Evil Geniuses. So I'm doing that right now as well, and I'm having fun doing it. So,
explain what the NJCAAE is briefly, please.
All right. So the NJCAAE is a competitive hub for 2-year colleges. They offer a lot of games, a lot of tiers of competition, lots of different game titles. I mean, I love the place. It's a great place. We have Matt, who's the main man from NJC over here. And so, yeah, I mean, I love NJC. So,
and when did you start playing? What exactly are you playing? And how much time and effort did it take to get to the level that you're at to be able to play in college?
Well, I didn't really know that esports was like a thing in college until my coach did a presentation in a high school interscholastic conference, and I decided, sure, why not? I wasn't even really planning on going to this college in the first place until I figured out we had an esports team, and so then I decided to do it. And the game I started playing was Warzone, and fun fact, never had played that game before in my life. And we had a guy who needed a duo, and so downloaded the game for the first time ever. He taught me everything I knew, and since then, I've had a new duo as well. But we have made second in the U.S. once. We've made it to playoffs every semester we've been in, and we're heading to the national playoffs next week. So I'm excited for
Wow.
that too. Yeah.
And how old were you when you played it for the first time, downloaded it for the first time?
Uh, Dude, that's a great question. I think I was 18. I'm gonna be 100. I think because I'm 19 now, so yeah, that would make sense. I'm 18. Well, I was 18 when I first started. So
So you picked it up pretty quickly, it sounds like, and are now
yeah,
playing at an extremely high level, which is awesome.
yeah.
All right, I know I put you in the spot right away, Spencer, but great job leading us
I'm not
off.
forgiving you.
And as he said, he's playing at a 2-year school in the National Junior College Athletic Association Esports uh, uh, organization, I guess, association, I guess it is. And to the other side of me, we're going to meet Matt King, who is the director of esports at the NJCAA. We're going to find out. Matt goes by Alpha Azul on your screen. Um, Matt, tell us where you are, how you got there, and a little bit about your role at the NJCAA. And you're muted. Oh.
I did the mistake. I made the mistake that you never want to make, but it happens. I'm the director of esports at the NJCAA. I've been doing it. I'm going on year 3 now. It's been a long journey to get here. Really, I initially started in esports back when I was in college. Actually, one of my friends told me to download this little game called League of Legends. It was little at the time, at least. And as soon as I played one game, that was it. I was hooked. I was done before I was cooked. And I played heavily for many, many years. Was a part of a lot of semi-pro teams that were trying to go into the pros. Really got into the organization aspect of it. So while I was good enough to be a player, they always liked how organized I was and ended up putting me into the coaching / manager spot, which ended up eating up all my time. And that eventually fed into working in the collegiate side. I've run programs and built programs at multiple universities across the U.S. So now I am leading the NJCAA, which is the 2-year technical college, community college competitive body inside the U.S. and Canada. We're trying to build out more beyond that, but we've been really doing well at feeding into our membership and really kind of increasing the membership and getting them involved as well. A big part of what I do for the NJCAA is talk to institutions that have not gotten an esports program started and kind of help them understand the steps that they can take to get their esports programs going at their institutions.
All right, that is very interesting to hear about your path. Did you mention where you were in school when you picked up League of Legends first time?
I was at a university called Stephen F. Austin State University. So I started there. They weren't really doing anything. There was maybe only a few institutions doing esports-based activities at that time, and most of them were student-led. So I was doing some things on campus, but was really mainly focusing on semi-pro opportunities. Graphic design, like I said, I joined as a player, then would kind of evolve into graphic design manager and coach for the teams a lot of the time. And then when I first started actually working full time for collegiate programs. The first university I worked at was University of Pikeville, and I just kept going from there.
I see. And you were at University of North Dakota?
Yep. Most recently, that was the last program I built. I built at an institution while working there full time. I've helped a couple others kind of figure their way through some things since then, but most of my time is eaten by running the programs.
And is the NJCAA your first time directly involved with two-year schools, community schools, technical schools? The other schools were four-year schools, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Primarily was 4-year beforehand. I had helped a few 2-year schools kind of understand some steps they could take to get going in collegiate esports, what they could do. And then I got this job and this is my first time really being involved in the 2-year space. I learned quite a bit in the first year. I did already know quite a bit about it because I have my dad's a professor. He has a lot of friends that are professors around the U.S. So I just kind of knew a little bit more about the space than I think the general population does. Our population within the space, within the 2-year space itself, has a pretty high diversity compared to 4-year and whatnot. Whenever you look at the numbers, we have players that go from Spencer's age, Mr. Royal's age, all the way to people in their 30s, getting their first degree or their associates or certifications. So we serve a wide base of participants within the association.
Awesome. All right. So thank you guys for starting us. And we've been talking about, both of you guys are involved in the 2-year school space right now. Let's meet our other panelists. Looks like Chloe has jumped up to the top here. Very excited to have Chloe here. I went to the University of Southern California for my undergrad, and that was it. I didn't go to grad school, so that was my college experience at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. Super fun. I'm from Minnesota. I'm back in Minnesota now, but I had a great time out there at USC, and I've gotten to know a little bit about the program at USC. And Chloe Kwan is from the USC esports program, but also they have an incredible and an esteemed school of game design. Chloe is majoring in game design. Interestingly, I just got to throw this in because it's interesting to me. I went to film school. They called it film school back in the day at USC, and that was where you went if you wanted to make movies, especially Hollywood movies, because I was in the middle of Hollywood. There was no gaming division back when I was at USC Film School, but the School of Cinematic Arts, it was the School of Cinema Television. Now it's the School of Cinematic Arts, and included in that is game design and game development. So I am super fascinated by all of that because it is another form of storytelling. If you're creating games, they are interactive stories, and it flows. It's just become way more popular and prominent than it was when I was there. But Chloe, tell us, you've come a long way, I think, to get to USC. I'd love to know more about how you came to come to USC, how you got into that particular major, and then your role on the esports team at USC. There you go.
Okay. Hi, my name is Chloe, and I'm currently a sophomore student in USC game design and a junior varsity player on the league team. And this is like kind of the similar story. A friend told me to download League of Legends 3 years ago. I was in like grade 10, and so I didn't like the game at first. I deleted it and then re-downloaded it and then played it every day. I was addicted, and it actually, like, ironically, it inspired me to be interested in game design and having a visual arts background. I steered my portfolio towards that way and kind of just Googled like, oh, best game design university, and realizing that USC is one of like the best game design schools. So then I applied and actually got in. Yeah, so I was really lucky in that. And so I'm kind of relatively new collegiate esports player. I just joined this year, and uh yeah, so my friend who plays League of Legends together with me, which I also got close playing League, he's like my upperclassman. He's on the USC varsity team, and he's just like, "Hey, you want to come try out?" And I was like, "Okay, sure," because yeah, I had friends who try out last year, but I wasn't eligible for it because you need to be at least uh peak diamond to try out. And then, but this year I was like, okay, I'll just go try, and then boom, yeah.
Well, congratulations. First of all, getting into that school, because it's not easy to get into that school. Did you, it says what you sent me, you came from Shanghai, is that right? Did you come to
Yes, I'm from Shanghai, China, but for my middle school and high school years, I was studying in Canada.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, again, huge achievement just to get into that program because it is a very prestigious program, and then
Thank you.
to be able to make the team as well. It's interesting. There was a game design program at USC as part of the School of Cinematic Arts long before there were competitive esports teams at USC. Do you know that? Have you heard that the teams came after the major?
Yeah, I've heard about that. And it's really interesting to learn about um how the School of Cinematic Arts is before from you. So
Yeah, I could tell you a lot of stories, ancient history. But well, it's great to have you here. You're on the junior varsity team. What are all the levels uh, at USC, and what games are played there?
um well, for the junior varsity, the average rank is diamond, but it goes from like emerald to masters players, and on the varsity goes from like master to challenger, and there's people playing in amateur league, like they're crazy. But yeah, and in league in USC esports, there are also games like Mario Smash Bros, Valorant, Overwatch, Hearthstones, and a lot of that. We actually just held a conquest against UCLA, and there's a lot of those competition that's like put out, and then the players from USC and UCLA play against each other, and then people can go watch. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm very pleased to say, even though we were disappointed on the football field against UCLA last past weekend, but the USC esports team took down the UCLA Bruins esports team across the board, right? You guys won overall in your rivalry week series, so we can hold our heads up high for that. And yeah, great to know all the different games that are being played. The fact that it's a campus with both game design as a major as well as an esports program, and that you could try out, make the junior varsity team, be a part of that. Really great, Chloe. Thank you for being here. We'll have, I'm sure, a lot of questions for you coming up. And now, let us turn to, it says it's the Josh on your screen. Josh Nichols, esports coordinator at Dickinson State University, where he has been for a while, building that program up, and a distinguished program at that. Josh, bat and cleanup here. Come on in and let us know who you are, how you got to do what you do, and a bit about your role.
Yeah, so you can call me Josh. I mean, the Josh is, I mean, that's just, I mean, I don't want to say I'm the best one, but I mean, if you want to do a survey, you can look around. So I've been at Dickinson State a long time, both as a student. I graduated from Dickinson State. I then started working for various programs. I've done everything from marketing to web work, wherever they pay me essentially. And then all of a sudden, this esports thing started coming to up in the world. We were the first institution, public institution within North Dakota to have esports. Jamestown is a private institution; it beat us, but we don't count them. So we were the first public institution to have it. And since then we've sort of been building and testing things out. We started fall 2019, just before the pandemic hit. So we've had to restart a couple times. We've done a few different things, but I've been dabbling with that for a while, and we keep growing and trying to evolve the gaming culture on campus. And I'm happy to be here tonight to answer all sorts of questions that you might have.
Did you have a background in gaming, or did you see an opportunity to be first at something and be a leader in the state?
Well, North Dakota, you betcha, sometimes will be a little bit conservative in moving forward with new ideas and stuff like that. We find a lot of times we're not necessarily the first to do something. And so when our administration was talking about esports, I was like, you mean you're talking about this before other public institutions in the state? I can't believe it. We're going to be first at something. And so I jumped on that. My gaming background has been, casual gaming since I was a kid, and a little bit of competitive as a teenager, but nothing too major. But I was like the only person, with a pulse at the time that had any interest or background in gaming at all. And so it was like, that was a match made in heaven. We have something new we're going to try, and we have a little bit of passion behind it. And we've been growing it since then. Now the students really are the key. I'm just like window dressing. I'm the driver, I'm the custodian. I do a little bit of the recruiting, but the teams and the gaming club and all those things really drive the organization for us.
It's fascinating, and it's such early days still. I believe in attending the National Association of Collegiate. Actually, the National Association of Esports Coaches and Directors.
Oh, okay.
That the events that we've attended through the past couple of years, and that have we've learned about the origins of esports in college. And it was Robert Morris University, I believe, that had is generally recognized as having the first collegiate esports program, and that's down in Illinois, I believe, and around 2014. So that's coming up on 10 years ago, but it's really been picking up of late. And so it's going to be fascinating to learn more about how you came to grab the reins of that and build the program. Can you tell us, I know a lot of questions are about scholarships to play esports in college. Does Dickinson State in the southwestern part of North Dakota, Dickinson State University, a 4-year university, do you offer scholarships for esports?
Yeah, we offer scholarships for a variety of different aspects of our gaming culture on campus and our esports program as a whole. So we've been looking into adding participation scholarships. That could be students who want to be more involved with our club or do streaming and activities like that, so they can get scholarship for those specific things. We also just partnered with UND actually on working with their esports degree and putting our own business spin on it versus having the more fitness and physiology aspect of it. So we've looked at doing that. So we've got academic scholarships. We also have them varsity level scholarships, and those range from smaller scholarships all the way up to half ride or full ride, just depending on skill level, GPA, all those types of things. And scholarships are something that all students look for. I'm sure everybody in the chat is going to have questions about how much you offer, how much do I get? And one of the things I always recommend to students is make sure you look at the university holistically. You want to know that they have a great academic program, you're going to be a good fit there, and then the scholarships are one part of it. Oftentimes with DSU, a smaller institution in North Dakota, we're not offering the same dollar amounts, but percentage of your tuition can be significant. And so, when you're getting a half ride scholarship at a university that's 80 grand, you're still paying 40 grand out of pocket. And so you have to make sure that you're looking at all the numbers and all the aspects of the university you're looking to visit. But yes, we do have scholarships. And more importantly, I'm here. So, that's scholarship of its own. That's just added value.
Exactly. And what titles are you currently playing, and how is that evolving at Dickinson State?
So over the course of the years, we've played many different titles, and we've kind of bopped back and forth between them, especially, when pandemic hit, we kind of had some ebb and flow. Valorant is our primary team right now. We've just added Overwatch. We're looking to add Rocket League back in the fall. We're also adding competitive iRacing and then also chess. So those are the ones that we're looking to get in right away. And then, of course, from there, we might evolve, add back in Rainbow Six, Fortnite, some of the other titles as well. But Valorant, Overwatch are our primary titles with those other ones that we're trying to dabble with. So.
Okay. So I jumped right in on the scholarship topic, which we will talk a lot about, I'm sure. Back to Chloe really quickly. It's my understanding that USC does not have scholarships for the esports program. There are scholarships for students in the game design major, right? But is that correct? No scholarships specifically for esports at USC, which is a private four-year school. Is that correct, Chloe?
Yes, there are scholarships for selective students in game design and like other sports, but not in esports, unfortunately.
Okay. So at this point, a school that has a strong athletic tradition and gives a lot of scholarships for athletes in traditional sports, not seeing esports there yet at the moment, but some interesting opportunities if you're interested in game design as well. And you want to play on the esports team, and Chloe's a great example of that. Matt, from the two-year school side, do scholarships enter into the picture at community schools and technical schools?
They definitely do. In fact, we have institutions that are starting to offer full rides that have they have dormitories and things of that nature. The general gist of community colleges and two-year institutions is that they're usually cheaper across the board, so the scholarships can go a little bit further for some of them. It's a great way if you're getting started out to kind of get moving. But we are seeing more and more institutions bring in scholarships. A lot of the time, if they don't, when they're first developing their program, if they don't do it on the start, if they keep the program going for around 1 to 2 years, then they'll start introducing scholarships. How far they go and how many teams they give scholarships to, we don't really have much data on yet, but that's something that we're looking at building some more information out with.
Okay, interesting. And then Spencer, you're currently at a two-year school. What are your plans looking ahead, and are scholarships of interest to you? Where do you sit kind of in the middle of your progression there?
Well, it's wherever the wind takes me, really. Right now, plans kind of rough. But I'm looking at a few different four-year colleges. I haven't really put anything out there yet because I still got like more than a full semester here at MSU. But I'm looking. I'm looking. Scholarships are definitely a big part of me wanting to go somewhere because tuition's rough sometimes, especially at four-year colleges that have good programs like a good esports program. The one I'm currently thinking of right now, which is the closest to me, is the MSU that's in Springfield, which is about an hour and a half away from me. And they are starting their esports program very soon. And tuition there's rough. So scholarships would be a big part of my decision, yeah.
All right. Well, we will talk a little bit more about ways to search for opportunities like that. But while we're with you, Spencer, you mentioned being a content creator as well. And from talking with you before, there's opportunities that you're finding, not necessarily just playing, but also on the content creation side of esports. And that's something that we know there are scholarships, and Josh mentioned scholarships for not just playing, but these additional roles that are involved in esports programs. So how do you see yourself kind of advancing? Do you think you'll be more of one or the other? Where's your heart at? What are your ambitions specifically as it relates to those different roles?
I definitely enjoy, making videos a lot more. I love it. I mean, I've been doing it for like 5 years, coming up on 6. TikToks are fun to make. YouTube videos are fun to make. Minecraft Let's Plays are super fun to make. I mean, being a part of like the team, but being like as a roster, not as like just a certain part of your team, but being a member of everyone and everyone talks to you, everyone gives you things, everyone piles in my office in here all the time, and they're like, hey, I just sent you videos, put them on the TikTok. And so, I mean, that kind of stuff happens. It's great. I mean, I love it. I love being a part of everyone on the team, and also talking to the community, especially on stream. A lot of times our Overwatch streams pop a lot, and we have people that will send close to 100 hydrates in chat, and I only have one water bottle and it doesn't work out. But just being a part of the community, just talking to people, the families of the players friends, it's just great. It's unmatched. The vibes are awesome.
That's great to hear that. I will say that not a lot of people have heard about the scholarships in esports being for more than just the players. Josh, you mentioned that when you were talking about your scholarship program, but can you talk a little bit more about, why that is? Why are there scholarships in other sports? It's for the players, right? You got to be, on the field. But in esports, it's different. How did that come to be, and why does it make sense for you guys at Dickinson State to offer scholarships for more than just those on the team competing as players?
Well, I think this is something that has been built on necessity. Like you have larger institutions that maybe have bigger budgets, or they have a donor that's going to give them $5 million to start their esports program. A lot of the other schools have had to make this work on their own. And what a lot of people don't understand about esports specifically as compared to traditional sports is you don't have, basketball and esports, or football and esports. You have its own mini athletics department. You have Valorant and Overwatch and League of Legends and Rocket League. Like, those are all individual titles that could use their own individual coach or their own individual, trainers and those types of things, or to schedule all the matches. And so it's not like just one sport compared to esports. It's its own mini department. Well, when you have such a robust set of games that you're offering and all those types of things, you have to have infrastructure behind it, and you have to have people that are working it. So for our purposes, we've been looking at how do we build this program with the students leading the program. And so we're looking for opportunities. I've had an intern in the past that did retro game content for offline content for our YouTube series. We've had student workers that we hire. We give them $12 an hour to either set up our club Minecraft server so we have community engagement on campus, or to run our streams. We offered a full ride scholarship for a graduate assistant this semester. So he's getting a full ride. He's getting his master's degree, but he's doing a lot of the efforts for setting up our trials and scrims and those types of things. And so we're looking for an experience for students when they get here, that they can be involved in whatever capacity they want to in order to further their education, gain some hands-on experience. But it's sort of offering an advantage that they don't see immediately. I work with a lot of recruits, and most of them come in, they're like, I have a 2.0 GPA and I'm the best gamer that's ever lived, and I need a full ride scholarship or else I won't even look at you. And I'm like, academics are a part of it. If you fail out of your first semester of classes, you're of no use to me on my team. You're not eligible. If you are failing you can't pay your bill and they're going to kick you out because you cannot pay the bill, you're of no use to me on my team. And so you have to look at the whole picture. But then also, if you want to take $1,000 hit on a scholarship, but you might have the opportunity to work for me, intern for me, and become a graduate assistant with a full ride scholarship, that might have value 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, 4 years down the road. And so I think that students need to look at this long term, just like individual universities are looking at long term. How do we keep this sustainable and growing? And that's what we've done for our program.
Well, if you're not the best player, and you're not the best player, but you like to be around the team, if you like to be around the community, as Spencer was saying, these are viable opportunities. And you just explained a number of different ways to get involved and actually get rewarded for being a part of the esports program at Dickinson State. So really interesting. I want to welcome, we weren't sure if he would make it, but we're super excited to have him, Lamar Daniels from St. Xavier University. Do I have that right, Lamar? St. Xavier?
Yes, sir. St. Xavier.
And that's in the Chicago, Illinois area?
Not in the Chicago area, in Chicago.
In the city.
Yeah,
That's right. Not just Chicago
Yeah.
land. All right. Well, we first met Lamar at a NACAD event a couple of years ago, the aforementioned National Association of Esports Coaches and Directors. Lamar is the Coach of the Year, according to NACAD. I was there when that honor was bestowed, and really excited to have you here. St. Xavier is a is a private university, a four-year
Yep.
school, correct?
Yep. Yep.
Chloe here is at USC on the esports team, Power 5 conference, private school, right? But Lamar, can you tell us? I know you haven't been at St. Xavier the whole time. Everybody else kind of took a turn introducing themselves, but we're thrilled you're here, Coach of the Year. Tell us how you got into this in the first place and how you ended up where you are, and a little bit about your program at St. Xavier, please.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate the very humbling introduction. Like Marty said, name's Lamar Daniels. I'm the esports director at St. Xavier University, right here, south side of Chicago. I got into esports when I was in undergrad. I was a traditional athlete, so I ran track, specifically recruited for track, and then played volleyball, was a part of acrobatics program. Initially wanted to be a lawyer, switched that to wanting to work in college athletics, and so got accepted to a graduate program at Ohio University for sports administration. And in between my undergrad and graduate school, I did an internship, and I like to call it fate because literally on my birthday of that year is when Overwatch dropped, and honestly, just kind of introduced me into what esports was. I grew up around the time of like Halo, Call of Duty being the bigger ones, but my mom was not a fan at all. So I got like 2 hours on Sunday, and that was it. So Overwatch became like my real intro into esports. And then I found out what esports was through that. Just dove right in. So taught myself about League, CS, Rocket League. I was just honestly anything I could learn about. I was trying to get to graduate school. First year, I got my master's in business administration. Second year, I got my master's in sports administration. Graduating from it, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. I know I wanted to coach. I'd coached track and volleyball at the high school and collegiate level at that point. I knew I wanted to work in student athlete development, specifically expecting to be like a student athlete tutor, one of the people that help plan like engagement activities for student athletes. So like, let's bring in speakers, let's teach you how to write a resume, stuff like that was what I thought I'd do. And then I knew I wanted to do esports, and so I had these 3 different paths that I really wanted to take, and I found out about collegiate esports, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. It literally combines every single thing I want to do. I get to coach, I get to work with student athletes, and I get to stay in esports, and it was like a perfect mix. So I was at Lourdes University for 3 years in Ohio, in the Northwest Ohio area. I was there for 3 years, and then about 2 years ago, I guess this is my second year starting now at St. Xavier, transitioned, moved over to Chicago. Born and raised Ohioan, so it was nice to be in Ohio, but wasn't fully expecting to end my life in Ohio, and so it's nice to kind of move, get to a bigger area. I love being in a big city. The school I was at, my undergrad was in DC, so fell in love with the big city area, and yeah, so that's kind of my path and how I got here at St. Xavier.
And how long have you been there? And describe the program for us a little bit. What's happening on campus with esports?
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been here. This is now the end of my 3rd semester, so I got here last fall. The program, honestly, it's a great place for me. I love being at a small school. It just kind of is more at home for me. Being a small college athlete, it just really fits what I'm used to. Our program is around 35 to 40 students. Initially, last year started off by just bringing in kids on campus, reaching out, seeing who was interested, seeing what talent we already had around the university. And then from there, we've been actively recruiting. We're in a great state for it, Illinois. The Illinois High School Esports Association, they do a great job at not only facilitating the competition, but helping out the students get contacted with collegiate coaches. And then the state of Illinois, their traditional athletics association also does esports as well. So very robust high school association we have here. Currently, we're competing in League of Legends, Overwatch, Valorant, Super Smash Brothers, and Rocket League are the 5 titles that we're doing right here at St. Xavier.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming in. I know you had something else that crashed in on your schedule, but it's great to have you here. The 4-year smaller private school. That's a popular category in collegiate esports, right? How do you, coming from that, Lamar, and then we'll kind of go around and ask everybody else's thoughts on this too, but if you imagine different types of schools that all make up the broader collegiate esports space, we've got the NJCAA here. So we've got the 2-year schools represented. Your type of school, this is the second school like that you've been at with an esports program, right?
Yeah.
How do you describe that faction versus the others?
Versus others. So your 4-year small college, and I like to just keep it real, keep it honest. Very, very honestly, just kind of tuition driven. So these are the schools that for a lot of our programs were actively started because, hey, we're a small school. We need another reason to kind of entice students to look at our school, right? And that's kind of where a lot of the esports springboard, especially once you saw the growth in like 2017, 2018, 2019, was a lot of those schools that are like, hey, this is maybe another way that we can pitch ourselves to students that might not normally have heard of our school, right? And it definitely helps in that sense. It allows me to kind of reach out to students that probably would never have heard of St. Xavier. A lot of our student population is from the south suburbs of Chicago, southwest side of Chicago, west side of Chicago. But us being able to have it just kind of gives a reason for someone that maybe not from the area actually decides to come. So usually your smallest 4-year college we're going to be the ones that are actively providing scholarships. But usually it's because, hey, like we're trying to find a different way of enticing students to come to our university.
Makes sense. Matt, how would you describe the motivation behind the community schools and technical schools adding esports? Is it comparable?
It's pretty comparable. I mean, I think the main difference is it's generally more focused on finishing. So getting the students to finish all the way through to get their certifications that they can at their institution. But it's also a big piece of community engagement as well, something that's a little bit different from the 4-year space as opposed to the 2-year space is that the 2-year campuses are generally a little more open to their local community than the 4-year institutions are, just kind of by way of what they do and how the institutions generally operate. So they also bring it in as a very good engagement piece as well. So you have the finishing, and you also have the bringing in new FTE piece as well. But that just general community engagement is also a big one, and which is why we have the tier 3 of competition for our members, which allows them to have anybody in their community join in and participate under that institution's flag and get engaged in collegiate esports, because it helps kind of bring the conversation forward more and really helps their programs in the end, because it gets more people knowledgeable on what's going on, which can drive support in the area.
Me learning about the esports space in college, fascinating to, as you were saying, Lamar, schools you haven't heard of, most people haven't heard of, but making a name for themselves in esports. I think 2-year schools tend to be more regionally known, right? But it's interesting that the biggest names in the collegiate esports space, in terms of the schools, aren't the best known schools in the traditional sports space, right? So, who wants to comment on how that has turned out to be? And now that we've got on LeagueOS, we've got all the Big Ten schools are playing a full season on LeagueOS, including USC, newly added to the Big Ten, right? So we see the big schools coming around, not scholarships yet for esports like they have for traditional sports at USC, but thoughts on why did the schools that have gotten the farthest, the fastest in collegiate esports, what about those schools allow them to do that? Throw that open to the group.
I can just mention real quick. I saw a lot of people on mute there, but I think generally because it's a little harder to get it moving at a larger institution, especially if you're looking at a research institution and all that. It's not their primary focus. Like whenever I worked at University of North Dakota, the academic program was a big piece for the entire reason why they created a position and hired me in. I wasn't just the esports coach. I was actually teaching courses and creating courses and helping them understand the program pathway. For them, it's also just generally faster. The smaller your institution is, the kind of faster you can kind of get it through. Even at the 2-year level, you can see the larger institutions. It can take a lot of discussion and conversation back and forths to actually get the program going and moving. When if you're a little bit smaller, you can kind of get in the conversation with the president, quick conversation, and then they decide to move into it and start building. At least that's what I've seen.
I think also a lot of institutions, this is one of those spaces where, when you look at some of the other organizations where they had 24 universities or colleges that were part of it, and now they're up over 300 or 400, they keep growing and growing. Everybody's buying GameStop right now. Everybody's buying AMC. Everybody's just getting on board. Like, we don't want to miss out. It's this, the fear of missing out kind of thing. And I think some of the institutions, they're just putting this as a mark, as a checklist. Okay, we have esports now because so many other places have it. And that's really a cautionary tale for students who are looking for a university and looking for a home. Do your research on the institution. Really ask those hard-hitting questions about where is the institution at now, where did they come from, and where do they plan on going? Because a lot of them, if this is just a check mark on the box, they may not be around for very long, or it may not be a priority. I have a lot of students that I'll chat with that are looking for a new home. They've been in a university for 1 semester, 2 semesters, maybe 2 years, and they're like, we're trying to transfer out because there's kind of broken promises, things aren't what we expected, and those types of things. And there's a lot of institutions that are just like, okay, get esports on the books. Also, I see with some of the bigger institutions especially, they're so used to doing things really, really well because they have the money and they have all the ability to have kind of that infrastructure behind it, that a lot of times they're cautious about launching until it's perfect. Like when we launched esports at Dickinson State, it was like, I don't know, let's just throw it at the wall and see what sticks. And then we started adding to it, just kept throwing stuff to see if it worked, where a lot of institutions would have been more cautious about that because they maybe have more to lose, but they're more risk because they have a bigger name, that it's going to be a bigger failure if they don't get it off the ground right away. And so I think that's why some of the smaller schools, to Alpha's point, it's like, they're able to get things done. My institution situation was, our director of finance was in charge of, he went to a conference. He's like, boy, this esports is a good thing. It might bring some money in. And he was in charge of the IT department, the facility operations department, and the budget. So essentially anything I needed, he was just able to sign off on, and we're a smaller institution to get that done. And so that's part of it as well.
That makes a ton of sense. It does, it is easier often if you're smaller and nimble to do things faster, right? I think it sets up for students, how do you begin to discover all the different opportunities that are out there? What schools that you may not have heard of actually have esports programs? Maybe a school that you have heard of doesn't have one yet. It might influence your decision of where you might want to go if you're interested in continuing, if you're playing in high school and you want to continue. I will say that with LeagueOS powering a dozen state high school esports leagues around the country, and now the NECC, one of the largest collegiate esports conferences. Very proud to say that the NJCAA is moving on to LeagueOS at the midpoint of the year. All of this allows us to help make connections and help students find their path and the best opportunities. Maybe it's scholarships, maybe it's a really great package and a spot on the team that a school can offer. Maybe it's not playing at all, but in these other roles that the esports programs need: social media, streaming, producing, casting, management. So one thing that I will say to all the people watching and that will watch after, if you are in one of the leagues on LeagueOS as a high school player, you can go to our Scholastic Champs League site, scholastic.leagueos.gg, and log in. You will be asked for your high school graduation year. And upon doing that, you will be able to look at a profile that you can use to find opportunities in the collegiate space. This is something brand new we're rolling out. The way to get involved, the way to check it out, see your profile, is to go to scholastic.leagueos.gg and answer the question about your high school graduation year. And that will set you up to be found by college coaches, college directors, college recruiters. So wanted to put a plug in for that. We will also be having all the schools with esports programs listed so you can search them and find out more about the programs. Okay, so based on that, Chloe, I want to come back to you as a player right now. It sounds like you came for the degree program and found the esports at USC. What is it like balancing your academic work, a very rigorous major at a big time school, with this type of extracurricular activity? Even though it's related, can it be a lot to balance? What advice do you have for students contemplating that?
I'd say the biggest piece of advice is just like have a planner for yourself, and like yeah, like League is addicting, but and I definitely procrastinate a lot, so not the best person to give speech on this, but procrastinate when you know you can. Like don't leave everything to last minute. Like I know this everyone says that, but yeah, I guess it's just, and also having a passion for your major, it really helps, because like not gonna lie, a lot of our homework other than writing papers are pretty fun, like designing narratives or creating games on Unity. And it really is just uh doing like doing work in a planner or having a schedule for your work. And yeah, and I don't think joining the esports team really changed my lifestyle or my like weekly schedule, because I played like same if not more amount of League anyways before, so I guess it's really just less of that entertainment time and putting more emphasis on team building or like competitive games. Yeah.
Organized, yeah. Lamar, the students on your team and your previous school, is there sort of a range of majors and focuses academically that you found from the games?
Yeah. I think by far computer science the most popular. I tell people all the time I don't think there's a stronger correlation between a sport or a team as esports with this CS. But I'll get a number of different students out. Usually CS or business. But I have psych majors. I have a couple music majors on my team right now. I had someone who was a criminal justice major before, so we get a pretty good variety, which I think is awesome. I think it just kind of goes to show that it's not just, hey, I'm doing CS. This obviously goes hand to hand, but you're gonna get people that are interested in a number of different things that stir out the esports interest.
Very cool.
If I can interject, I think that's one of the things about esports that is a great benefit, is that there's so much flexibility with it. I have a lot of dual athletes that are doing traditional sports as well. I have a lot of students. I mean, we got a guy who's a nursing major, so if he's doing a clinical or late nights and stuff like that, it's flexible to reschedule. You're not rescheduling football and basketball games. You're not saying, well, one player's not feeling so well, we're just gonna kind of uproot it. And so that there is a ton of flexibility there for scheduling, and with that academics first attitude, if a student is struggling in classes, you have the ability to adjust things. To kind of Chloe's point, it doesn't necessarily have to affect your schedule that much if you're open and honest with your program and your coach and your coordinator.
That's great insight. We did have a question, actually. I was sort of just rolling here, but looking at the questions that have come in, even during the event tonight, uh, Phantom Phantom K, is it, from Birdville High School in Texas, did ask, "What's it like balancing school life with esports?" Great insights. And then Spencer, I know your headache is not the greatest tonight, but from your vantage point, you're there in school, you're balancing academics with all the other activities, the content creation. What can you add to the conversation about the balance?
There's a lot of scheduling. I mean, usually my nights depend on me cranking out like a calendar, not really a calendar, but like a time log of like what I need to do in the next day or two. I mean, I'm usually here in the office from like 8 a.m. to like 9 p.m. almost every day. And it takes a lot because especially with the classes that I take with computer graphics and designing and stuff, I can have like 6 hours of classes a day, just all in a row. And sometimes it gets pretty rough, especially right now because we're in the playoffs, the postseason for NJC, and me and my boy are practicing a lot, and so between the practicing and between actually playing the games and between the content creation and as well as classes, it's a little hectic. Today was one of those days where it was hectic. I'm supposed to be on Thanksgiving break. It's not happening. This is just time to catch up. But I mean, there's a lot of time for time management is a way that I can put it that I need to have. Especially when you do 8 or 10 things in a day, it does get a little overwhelming. But I mean, as long as you have like a solid standpoint of like what you need to do the stuff you need to do now, and as Chloe said earlier, procrastinate when you know you have the time to procrastinate. That's a big one, especially when you do a lot.
Yeah, sometimes the more you load into your schedule, you just eliminate any opportunity to procrastinate, right? Because you got
Yeah.
a little time to get stuff done. Um, Appreciate that. Another question that we had from our forums, I'm going to start bringing those in. One of our high school coaches, Coach Vargas from Illinois, where you are, Lamar. How can I help my students get into college esports from a teacher's perspective, for the teachers that are watching? Any advice for teachers of high school programs to position their students for opportunities in college?
I can take that since Phil. I don't know what the Illinoisan. I don't know. I got here a year
Yeah.
ago, so I'm still
Well,
getting used to some of the terminology. A big way is this is actually really kind of special to me as someone who went through the recruiting process as a traditional athlete and got used to that. Is just kind of seeing how disconnected like esports is, right? Um, there's a couple big ways. I think the biggest thing is just telling your students that if they are interested, to feel free to just reach out. You should find on if it's an esports program that's connected with their athletics, on the athletics website they should have a college coaches connection. In traditional sports, this is what happens all the time, right? It's the students that are reaching out a lot to the coaches. Hey, here's here's my film, here are my stats, here's my times, right? Same thing could be done on the esports side. Hey, here's a link to my Valorant tracker. Here's a link to my op.gg. I'm interested in the program, right? In that intro email should be like their name, what high school they go to, their GPA, things like that, right? If they're serious about it, if they have a Twitter, they can put that stuff in their bio. If you look at traditional athletics, you see a kid who's a senior that wants to play football in college. Look at his Twitter bio. It's going to have his height, his weight, what position he plays, everything like that, right? And we're still need to get there a little bit on the esports side. That's one way. And another way is honestly, you can ask your students like, hey, who is interested? And you can make that connection yourself as the coach. I was talking to our football coach a couple days ago, and I was in a classroom with him because I was doing some work. He was doing some work, and he was using the screen, and he had this big spreadsheet of all these players. And I was like, "Did you find all those yourself?" He was like, "No, these are just all kids that high school coaches sent to us. Like the high school coaches will send to the area colleges. Here are the seniors that I have that are interested in playing collegiate, and here are their names. and here's some information about them, right? We don't get that in esports. It's very much the exact opposite, where us as the coaches, we're doing a lot more of the outreach versus vice versa, right? Because the supply and demand's a lot different, right? There's a lot more high school football players than there are kids that play in college, where I don't think it's fully that way yet, or as much in collegiate esports. And so a lot of times it's us having to do the reach out. But I think it's not as intimidating as it might be, and it's a lot easier than you might expect. And honestly, it's really either you yourself making the connection with the coach, or just suggesting with your kids, say, hey, just reach out, send an email, introduce yourself, send some information about yourself, and I would say 9 times out of 10, the coach will get back to you on it.
That's great insight. Anybody else? Advice for the high school coaches and teachers?
Well, I think it's a lot of our job as universities and colleges and the coordinators and coaches to really be educating high school counselors about what we're looking for. But once, any high school counselors that are in the room right now, we've bestowed this knowledge upon you. Now you need to go forth and share that with other people. And the biggest thing is if you just let the students know to just contact us. That's all they just need to reach out in some capacity. If they have any interest, you can go to Google and type in Rocket League colleges, varsity team. You can, whatever they want to do. If they get their name out, if I get contacted by a student, first I will make sure that I call a hospital in case I'm having a heart attack, because I'll be so shocked. Then I will resuscitate myself, and then I'll get back to them. Because it's very difficult to get that initial contact. We are beating the ground so hard on trying to find people that are interested, because a lot of students don't see themselves going forth with esports as a career or as a varsity thing, or even knowing that it's a scholarship opportunity for them. Most parents have beat into their heads that I'm not paying you to go to school to play video games, or get out of your room and quit playing video games, sign up for college. That's sort of the vibe that is out there. And when I have more surprise out of parents than I do students, when the parents walk through and they're like, wait a minute, you have a whole room with computers for esports? Yeah. I was like, and I'll give them money for it. Wait, you have a scholarship? They are so shocked by that. And that's just something that's not known. So counselors educating the parents even is a huge step. And I would love to have conversations with parents. If students, if counselors can engage with a student, they know the student has interest in gaming or technology, and they want to be streamers, or they want to do social media, but they know that the parents are going to be a barrier. Give me the parents' contact information. I'd love to set up a group call and talk to them about it, because I can sell it better to the parents than the student who has been told over and over again, quit playing video games in your room. I can sell it to them better.
Yeah, that was my whole life. Yeah.
Well, for Spencer and Chloe, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, you guys did not play in high school. There was, maybe you didn't have organized esports, or you didn't play it in high school. Okay, so there are some questions about the difficulty level in jumping up. As players, I don't know if you can comment on that. If you did play at the high school level, maybe the Josh and Lamar can talk a little bit, or Matt, in general with the programs you've been involved in. But what would high school kids need to anticipate? As they contemplate this. If you're describing being quite a go-getter, right? All the ways that you can kind of get the attention and make an opportunity for yourself. But what should they know about how hard it is to make that leap? Matt, do you want to take that?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I can say generally it's going to be quite a leap. Most of the time, whenever you're working in the high school space, it's much like athletics. You do have some areas that are kind of those, how would you say, very competitive areas that have high level, high competency and high levels of competition within high school. But generally, you're not going to have it as much as you would within the collegiate space. You're getting to a smaller group of people who are really trying to focus. They're focusing on a career pathway as well as competitive pathways for themselves if they are looking for the collegiate space. So you're going to see people that are spending more time and generally have more directed effort in their programs and in what they're doing. So you will see a pretty large difference. I can tell you something that I had in the first institution I built a program at. I actually had students that had never played the games, much like Spencer, and never played the games before. I mean, they came to me, they wanted to play. One of them was a League of Legends player, which you would, I think if you have played League, you would note you couldn't join League and then immediately get pretty good at the game. It takes a long time to really get good. The student joined in, and within the first, towards the end of the first semester, they were Plat 1 in solo queue ranked, Plat 1 playing level. And that was with them actually practicing with the team and all that kind of. So you have people, again, I think it's more about the dedication. Generally, you're going to have people that are really dedicated because there is a pretty big difference between just playing with your friends and then making it a more and more organized sport. At the high school level, it's still going through a lot of development stages. I mean, so is the collegiate level. The collegiate level is still going through a lot of development, but we have started getting that kind of really strong base of understanding of what your expectations are. The associations themselves, I feel like, have been developing in a good way to make that better and better for the members of the associations as well.
Somebody else wanted to jump in on that too?
Yeah. And as someone who made the leap from like just casually playing League with friends into like a collegiate like esports team, the leap is definitely really huge. And I think playing sort of competitively or in a team in high school, it's already like the leap is already going to be smaller than the leap I made, which I think it was really good because you already know sort of how to communicate with your team and I guess taking feedbacks and the sort of environment. So playing in high school definitely would really help making that leap. The leap is still there. It's just going to be much smaller. So yeah, and I think what's really important is like just recognizing that you still need to improve on a lot of stuff and taking feedback from the coach. Yeah.
All right. I want to shout out that leap question. I want to make sure there's credit. Asia X666 from Goshen High School in Ohio. Great question about that. Any other notes on making that transition? Do you feel from the coach's side, can anybody who's been involved in a high school program and actually been, in an organized play, not just playing casually, do you think there's a place they can find in the collegiate esports world if they've got that experience? Or is there still going to be, like traditional sports, you got to be kind of the best of the best to have a hope of playing at the higher level?
I think there's a space in the program, not necessarily a space on the varsity team or on the starting lineup, or, it just depends on what your skill level is and where the skill level is for the team at the time. I mean, there's times that I might have, 3 SSLs on a Rocket League team, and then 2 semesters later, we're back to platinum. It just depends on where the program is, and that's if you don't mind me interjecting, there was a question in chat. EJ Boat asked about what other things can you ask an institution, and how do you know about their program, and what's the good things to ask them about? Yeah, and really that's the question: is what's the skill level of your team? Where are you going from here? Some of the people that have had problems with their institutions will tell me, like my institution, we won this tournament and then we were going to go to Atlanta, to DreamHacks, to the Nationals, and they wouldn't send us. They wouldn't pay our way. And I'm like, what? They wouldn't pay your way? Like I'd be selling cookies on the street if, to pay your way, because that's great marketing for the institution. But it was an institution that did not have the funds and did not have that support behind them for that. So ask them a question like, if I win the LAN, will you send me? And I'd tell them honestly, like, I would do everything possible. I can't make 100% guarantee. Here's the money we've spent before on that. Here's what we're looking for. I'm not sending you overseas. probably can't afford that. I'm not flying you there private. And so you have to have realistic expectations on both sides for that. But I think that there can be a spot in the program. And once you get your foot in the door, maybe you're not the best player at a certain game, but maybe you can get there by next semester. Or maybe you can start scrimming with the team because they have their fifth man is down for an evening or something, and you can hop in and sub and kind of learn the ropes. And if not, get involved with all the other aspects.
Yeah. Super important. Any other questions that are popping up in the chat, by the way? It's going fast. I think there's some side games being played here. There's Spencer is keeping everybody occupied over there. But yeah, any questions you see popping up, if I miss it, don't hesitate. Thank you, Josh, for doing that. On the questions coming in ahead of time, what about a school, if you're interested in going to a school that does not have an esports program, knowing that there are still a number of colleges out there that don't have esports program, is there a route as an incoming student to make a change at a university or to your school, or what's the possibility there?
I can hop in here because, and I don't mean to cut anybody off if they were going to hop in, but I can tell you from what I've seen a lot of the time, yes, the student can make a big change at the institution. You can push and get a program started as a club and keep pushing from there, because if they see interest from the student level, there's a good chance that they will actually try to pick it up and push it forward, especially since it is kind of it's becoming more formalized at this point. So if they see that there is interest, there is something going on the campus already. If they see y'all getting together inside the lunchroom or one of the computer labs, gaming together and actually meeting and competing, then that can happen. Also, the early days of esports, some of y'all might have seen this. What would happen is a club team would go into CLOL or one of those, developer run tournaments or something. I mean, it's even happened with the NJCAA in the past, and they would get very far going to the nationals, and then the institution is almost forced to recognize it as something real on campus. That actually was extremely common back in the day. You're starting to see it less because they recognize it quicker, but it was always funny to see a team even win. I think what is it? UT Arlington was one that used to be a pretty big powerhouse in the collegiate scene, primarily with oh man, I can't remember the game now because it's kind of gone out of the way. What is the Blizzard MOBA?
HOTS, Heroes of the Storm.
HOTS, yeah, Heroes of the Storm. They had won that and got a prize pool and everything, and the institution was like, "Oh, okay, we didn't know this existed." And after that happened, they actually kind of took it on and started treating it like a real program. So it's very interesting to see how students can affect these things.
Still,
yeah, the club
days.
is.
Yeah, go ahead.
The clubs are great routes to go through, and I would say it really depends on what you're looking for at an institution, because there are students that can really grow with that. It's kind of like that old adage, there's society grows great when men plant trees under whose shade they will never sit under. Like, if you're looking to create this program, know that it could take time. So know that if you go to an institution that does not have a program, some students might expect, well, within a semester, I'm going to be, it's going to be this thriving, moving program. It might not happen, and it could. But also, you're setting yourself up to possibly be a leader in the area, to set that up, to possibly have a job for yourself when you've gotten done with that. But it's not necessarily immediate gains or immediate returns. If you find an institution, though, that doesn't have it, and you're like, I want to just play. I want to be part of the team. I want to be part of the program. Find that institution that you're looking for, and then look up comparable institutions. If you know that you want a 2-year school with a certain tuition rate that's private versus public, that has certain weather, whatever, what you're looking for, you can find probably 10 other comparable schools that have an esports team already established, and then ask those hard-hitting questions to see where they're at. And so it depends on what your goal is as a student. I have some students that say, if I can't play on the starting lineup my freshman year, first semester, with my 2.0 GPA and a full ride scholarship, I'm not coming. And I'm like, I'm not having you. So, I mean, there's got to be a mutual benefit there for both people. So to find what you want as a student, you have to write that down, actually what you're looking for, and check that off as you're talking to institutions. But also, you're not going to find a unicorn every time. You might have to have a horse with a horn taped to its head. You might have to get 80% of what you want. You are likely never going to get 100% of what you're looking for out of your wants list. So be able to compromise.
It's a great question from Ronan2622, Warren Township High School in Illinois again. Great question, not Illinois. Lots of good questions in the form here. Thank you guys for filling that up. We're going to hit some more of them, but really great stuff, Josh and Matt. Thank you. Lamar, the program at your school, different schools can have different variations of ways to play, right? There can be varsity, there can be club. Sometimes clubs play competitively, almost like a varsity team. Chloe's on the JV team at USC, but then there's also intramural. What have you seen, and what do you have at St. Xavier in terms of the breakdown of different levels of play?
Yeah, so we run ours with just varsity teams. We do have a varsity and academy team for our Valorant program, and ideally, and any of my programs, I want all of our titles to have a varsity and an academy team. I see a lot of benefit in having that. Obviously, just having more people is always good if someone's ever out. But I find that our Valorant and our Academy teams really kind of feed off of each other, really support each other very, very well, which is also pretty cool to see. So at least as far as like St. Xavier, that's what we're running just now. But kind of on piggybacking on what Josh was saying, like you're gonna get a lot of just different experiences at different schools, and you really got to just kind of ask yourself, what's the experience you want. Your experience at a varsity program is going to be drastically different than experience at a club program, right? Is that a big school that you want to go? Do you want to go to small school? Like for me, when I was coming out of high school, I knew I wanted to run track in college. I also really wanted to go to Ohio State, and I knew both of those weren't happening together. And so I had to make a decision, like, what's the more important thing for me? And for me, it was like, hey, I really want this experience. I tell people all the time, it's being a college athlete is an experience only like 8 to 10% of high school students go through. So I'm a big proponent of like, hey, if you can do it, do it. You have 4 years, 5 years to enjoy this time and get a pretty cool experience. I'm really, really on the board for it. So, but yeah, you're gonna get a lot of different things at different schools. And it really is just kind of you just figuring out what do you feel like is going to be the best, and what are you actually gonna want to look for.
And it's not just esports. It's what are you looking for in an institution? I had a player come here for 1 year. He was from the Caribbean, and North Dakota was too cold for him, he said. I mean, that is something that could have been worked out before he got here. Those are, and I don't mean that to be flippant, but I mean, he's from the Caribbean. He's used to a certain temperature. North Dakota can get cold, and it's something that like he didn't even consider at the time. It was about the scholarship, or it was about interactions with recruiters, or it was about something, but he didn't look at all facets of what it was to go to that institution. So find a place. Is it big city? Is it small town? I have a lot of big fish, small pond kind of stuff going on where, let's say you're going to be a theater major. Do you want to be the lead in a play at a smaller school at your freshman year? Or do you want to be tree number 3 for the 4 years you're there because you're in a bigger school where 200 people audition for every part? Find what that means for you. Do you want lecture classes that are 200 people in a room or not? Like, you have to find what the balance is, not just esports. That's one piece of the puzzle. And some people lead with that only, and they put blinders on to all the other attributes of the university.
It certainly pays to do the research in that important time of your life, right? One of the things that we're going to be helping with the system that we're rolling out, the college portal, as I mentioned, setting your profile up, logging in at scholastic.leagueos.gg to get your profile set up. You will be able to search for different types of programs at different schools, about the esports program specifically, about the more general attributes of the school, enrollment, different degrees, degree programs, things like that. So there haven't been a lot of great places to do this research. You really had to kind of really, go out of your way and piece it together. We're trying to make that a lot easier. So, exciting to know how this space is growing and all the ways that people like you guys have made it possible and found your way into it. But it can be a lot more. Can be a lot more readily available. The information can be more readily available. We're trying to help with that for sure. We are getting close to the end of our 90 minutes. I did want to get to a question I'm going to bring Spencer back in here. There was a question from Kiryu Gamer from Jones College Prep, also from Illinois. I keep getting Illinois questions that are popping up for me here, but have you met any longtime friends through college gaming? What is it you talked community before. What have you found on that side of things?
So the guy that I ended up getting paired with as a duo, because at the NJC we run Warzone in duos. I spent like a lot of time with this dude. But the funniest thing is on stream, everyone said we sounded like we were brothers, but we literally never talked to each other, and we never practiced with each other until like an hour before our games were actually supposed to start. And so, I mean, I guess that's what friends do. I don't know, but I mean, we still, because he has moved away and he's going to a different college right now. And we still play games like all the time. We still play Warzone together all the time. Me and the guys on the Call of Duty team, on the Valorant team, on the Warzone team, everybody. I mean, we've played countless games together all the time. And I mean, like I said, they kind of just come in here and walk in my office. In fact, I've had like 6 people knock on my door since I've been in this call, and wave at me through the window. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I made a lot of friends doing this, and even online as well. A lot of other teams that we've played against. We most recently went against in the Super Regionals. Was Pensacola State, and these guys. Favorite team to play against. Love these guys. I would not pick a better team that I would potentially lose to, and I did. But I mean, these guys are great. I mean, we talked, we had fun throughout literally the whole match, and it was just a great time. And so, I mean, not only do you make friends with the people on your team, but you also make friends with people from other teams that you play against, and it's always a good time.
Definitely great to be involved. It's a fun way to be involved, doing something that you love and connecting with other players and people involved. With the time we have left, there's one thing this was something that took me a while to wrap my mind around when I was first exploring this space. But you have a team at your school. Who do you play, and how do you end up playing whom you play? What are the structures of competition? Matt, you are involved in structuring competitions among 2-year schools, right? Do the 2-year schools sometimes play against the 4-year schools? And then I'd like to hear from Lamar and Josh about how you choose where your teams play. So let's start with Matt.
Yeah, the 2-year schools do play against 4-year schools in specialty competitions, things of that nature. The association, the national office is working to set up more and more of those types of competitions. We're trying to make it very regionally focused because, as you mentioned earlier in the call, 2-year institutions are very regional based institutions. So being able to connect them, and really it's looking at not even just from the 2-year to the 4-year, but it's also getting high school students involved in that process as well to really kind of lead to that full pipeline all the way through. I mean, that's our overall goal. So you do see those competitions happening. For us, the national office pretty much does all the matching for them. We do all the work on the back end. They do scrim each other. They do set up their own matches and things of that nature at times. And like I said, they do make their own events where they try to involve the 4-year institutions in their area to kind of connect their students to them. So we see it all across the board on our end.
But for the association, the NJCAAE, that is all 2-year schools scheduled against each other as the primary.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, we're all only we only allow 2-year students to participate. So technically, there might be some four-year institutions inside of the association, but how the institution is set up is generally means they have, if they're in our association, they have a 2-year aspect to the institution. I mean, like our good old friend Spencer over here is talking about, his institution is one of those that technically it's in a 4-year group, but it is a 2-year institution inside that 4-year group.
Okay. Lamar, how did you guys decide what competitions and conferences and tournaments and things that you guys play in?
Yeah, so on the national level, we do NACE, National Association of Collegiate Esports, one that a lot of people have heard of, very similar to NECC and what they do. But another one we do is the Great Lakes Esports Conference. And this is a conference of small schools around our size in Ohio, Indiana. At my previous institution, Lord's University, we were one of the founding members. I was kind of the de facto commissioner in a sense. It was really just ran by all of us directors, but sports administration being something that's very near and dear to my heart, wanted to make sure it was set up well. So I was involved in a lot of getting our scheduling done, getting our voting process done for our MVPs, our first team all conference, second team all conference, all of our awards, getting our trophy, all of that. So now at my new school, we decided to apply for membership, got accepted. I think it just structures your season, honestly, a lot better. Instead of playing just kind of schools from all over, we're playing some schools that are relatively local to us, some schools that some of our traditional sports play, that really kind of keeps not just our team, but also kind of more people in the student body engaged. And also is really, really good to play in a conference that it's consistent competition year in, year out. It's very similar to your traditional sports. So really allows us to have guideposts, right? Every year we play in it. Hey, this is where we finished last year. Our goal is to get to here, right? We made it to the playoffs last year. Now we want to get to the championship game. Made it to the championship game. Now we want to win it. And then that conference is partnered with CECC or so. If you win the conference, you go to nationals, which 2 years ago was in Atlanta. Last year was in Dallas, which is very much similar to your traditional sports. And I think there's a reason why you have that motto in traditional sports, is like it just really, it makes your season a lot more meaningful when you have like, hey, there's this really, really big goal for us to play for, because there's this huge tournament for us to be able to travel to if we win our conference. So that's what we do over here at St. Xavier.
Awesome. Josh, same question to you. And does Dickinson State have kind of traditional rivals from the traditional sports world? We heard Chloe talking before. USC was playing UCLA across a bunch of games. Built-in interest, right, when rivalries are involved. How have you guys decided where to play, and how do you kind of look to tap into the interest that's kind of built into the school identity?
So I'll answer that question. I will note that this is another great question for high school students and counselors to ask colleges about what they play in specific games, because it can vary per title, it can vary per team. So over the course of time, we actually will work with our team very selectively to see what's their course load that semester, what is their capacity for playing, what's their current skill level, do they need a lot of hands-on one-on-one coaching, do they just need some VOD review, like what is it that they're needing as a team. So we've had one particular team, they were in 6 tournaments at one time. They were playing 6 days a week, actual competitive tournaments in different areas. That's way too much for the average team, but for them that worked really well, and they were able to use, instead of running a random scrim, they played in a higher level seed competition, and that was where they got a lot of the main skill from. They were able to just like hammer out competition after competition. Some other teams might want to handle one of those at a time. You might only want to do one competition, but it really sucks to lose all the time. And so a lot of players, if you have a lower ranked team, don't go in the NACE premier highest category. Like that might not be the thing that you want to compete in right away. So you have to choose which ones that you do. Also local competitions, like you said, it depends on the travel. If your university can afford land travel, it's something that you can do something that's more regional versus something that's more national. I just got back yesterday driving 8 hours from a land that's more regionally based. North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin. We've had Iowa in there before. It's more of a regional based thing. And so for that, it's nice to be able to play in some local stuff. So that's a great question to ask the universities, like, what do you want to play? If your expectation is that you're going to go to national competitions in Atlanta every year, that might be a certain niche of schools that might require a certain skill set as well. So we've done a variety of things. It can be per team, per game can be different, and also what we play. When we've played in bigger titles, sometimes it's fun to lose to the big guys too. Like when you lose against University of Alabama, the fact that the little Dickens of North Dakota was able to play University of Alabama was kind of cool for those guys, even though they got just completely smashed. I mean, it was not even a close competition. I mean, it was just like a slaughter. But like that's fun sometimes. So that's the good questions to ask. But yeah, it depends on the institution, the team, the title.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are close to the end of the time that I promised everybody that we would go to. I would like to go around. If there are questions, let me know if there's a question that somebody saw pop up that they want to make sure they answer out loud. There's so much happening in the chat here. Covered some of them that came in on the forums. Again, if you filled out the form, you have a special LOS Roundtables badge coming for participating and sharing your thoughts to help us guide this conversation. We had a lot of questions about scholarships. We talked a little bit about that. Some schools offer, some schools don't. Things that you can research. But if we could go around, and I'll start back with Spencer, put you out of your headache misery a little bit early here. We'll get you done first, leading off again. But we'll go around. One piece of advice for a student that is looking to break into esports in the college space. What is the one piece of advice you would want them to carry away from this conversation, starting with Spencer?
Simply just go for it. I mean, that's all I can really say. That's what I did. I mean, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, except I just knew I liked to play video games. And I mean, if you already have the passion for it, then you're already halfway there. I mean, a lot of people stop just because they feel like they don't want to do it anymore, or they feel like they might not be good enough. But you'll not get good enough if you don't try and you don't practice for it and you just go for it. I mean, that's really all I can say about that.
Well said. All right, Matt, you're next. One piece of advice for a young person looking to get into esports at the college level.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't disagree with Spencer there. I would definitely tell them to go for it. Make sure you do your research when you are going for it. Self-improvement's a big piece of esports, but not only esports, it's pretty much a big piece of life and careers and everything of that nature. So really take your time and start making sure you're setting actionable steps for yourself.
Excellent. All right. I believe when we were starting off, Chloe was next. Chloe from USC, playing League of Legends on the JV team, studying game design. Your best piece of advice for students listening about the college esports space?
I would say be flexible and open to like improvements and changes, whether it be like your champion pool or your role in your role in the esports team. Yeah, and I think being open to feedback and how you should improve is really important. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Next up is the Josh. Josh, you've had so much great advice tonight, but if you could pick one more thing, maybe it's something you haven't said yet, something you'd want somebody to carry away in this last segment.
I think it kind of just encompasses most of the things I've said in the past. It's strictly connect and ask questions. Those are the two biggest things that you can do. And it's never too late and it's never too early to do that. I talk with 7th graders about what it's going to be like to come to DSU. They're a long way off. I don't know if we'll have a program. I don't know if the games will exist. I don't know if Elon Musk will run the world at that point. I have no idea what's going to happen then. But the fact that they've made a connection, they're starting to talk, they're starting to ask questions, they're getting their foot in the door. Those are all great, incredible things to do. Ask those questions about what you're looking for the program. And with that, I'll say that my door's open. I put my email in chat a few times. If you want to email me any questions, if you're a high school student, you're a counselor, you're another university, we need to grow esports together, and we're all in it together. And so as much as we can help each other, the best for that. And if I don't want to answer email, I'll just ignore it. But beyond that, I'm going to act like I'm pretty open to it. I'm just going to say I'm open to it, and I'm going to just strictly ignore you once you email me. I'm just kidding. Thanks for having us, by the way. That is a great opportunity for everybody involved. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you guys could all be here. The Josh from Dickinson State University in North Dakota, and then the NACAD Collegiate Coach of the Year joined us fashionably late, but we're so thrilled you were here. Lamar Daniels from St. Xavier, south side of Chicago. I got to make sure I switch to you here so you get your close-up. Best piece of advice. You get to close us out for a young person looking to get into the college esports scene.
Best piece of advice. Really promote yourself. I talked about this earlier, where in traditional athletics, when I was going through the recruiting process, which like 10 years ago by now, to actually maybe longer than that, it was a lot of me reaching out to coaches. Telling them, hey, these are my times when I ran track. These were the times I hit. Do the same. If you're really serious about this, you got a Twitter, put that stuff in your bio. Put what your rank is in your bio. Put what your ACT score is in your bio. Put what your GPA is in your bio. Reach out to the schools that you're interested in. Josh mentioned like doing research. Think about where you want to be and email those coaches. I promise you, there will be some good connections made when you decide to take the league and just kind of put yourself out there, because even though I know I said like there's not that many like high school programs are still growing, you could ask Josh now, like there's still a lot of kids that now there's more and more students, high schools. Now we have to like sift through a lot of the students that are out there. And now we're trying to figure out like, we can't reach out to every single high school student. It's just not possible now. So there might be a school that you're interested in that will never reach out to you because they just don't know. So feel free to put yourself out there, reach out to the coaches that you're interested in. Same thing here. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'll drop my email in there as well. And kind of get yourself out there and get connected.
It's fantastic. Finishing off strong. Very clearly, you need to make your opportunities. You need to be out there. You need to push yourself. You need to maybe go out of your comfort zone a little bit and go after what you want to do. Be opportunistic, find resources. As I mentioned earlier, if you go to scholastic.leagueos.gg, if you're one of the players in one of our high school leagues, you will have a chance to enter your graduation year and create a profile that college coaches are eagerly looking to look at. And so that's one thing. There are others. You heard a lot of great advice tonight. I really want to thank this panel. If we could all do some sort of a virtual clap for our amazing panel tonight. You guys dedicated time, Thanksgiving week, kicking it off on a Monday before the holiday kicks in, and sharing all of your insights and thoughts. We are just getting these roundtables going. We're figuring it out. Joel was the moderator last time. Hopefully, I got everybody's questions woven in there somewhere, but you guys did such a great job sharing your thoughts. And this will be posted to our YouTube following this, the LeagueOS YouTube, so you can run it back. You guys can evaluate your performances, but just want to say a little bit over. Thank you all for being here tonight. Strong group in the audience. Look at all the claps coming in. Fantastic.
I'll be back Thursday. I'm just going to be eating on stream. It's going to be answering questions, eating turkey.
I don't know when I'm going to be back. I'm going to be 100 with you.
This stage is open. The stage is open anytime you guys want. But but no, we'll do this again. I'm sure we'll have more sequels to this esports in college conversation, especially since we're jumping into this. But thank you all for watching, and we'll be back next month. We are going to be doing our next roundtable on December 7th. December 7th from the NACAD event in Fargo, North Dakota. Josh, I believe you're going to be there, if I'm not mistaken. Are you going to the NACAD event in Fargo? Fantastic. So if you want to meet the Josh, you may want to be in Fargo.
Come to Fargo.
You can come to
Take
Fargo
a road trip
on December 7th. That will be a Thursday evening, and we'll be doing a discussion of coaching because it is the National Association of Coaches and Directors, the Esports Coaches and Directors. So that'll be our next one. Mark your calendars. We'll make the announcement, but keep the questions coming and tell your friends. LOS Roundtables. Ask us anything. And one more time, thank you to our wonderful panel. Appreciate it. We will be in touch again soon.